You've dealt with the NBA, the Olympics. What was the craziest thing that you've ever sourced?
24 karat gold iPhones, which are fully custom for the best football players in the world. For Barcelona, a player called Lamine Yamal, and for Real Madrid, Mbappé and Jude Bellingham. If you are manufacturing, let's say, a tent with a supplier, and it took like maybe 6 months in development, and then you finally got that product, and the supplier has billed you for their product development cost and their engineer cost and their sample cost, but they've just put it into the unit price. The cost of your product is like $55, but the actual cost of the materials and the labor might only be $30. When you're paying tariffs, you don't want to pay a tariff on product development. You just want to pay a tariff on the actual cost of the goods. Well, if we're ordering 1,000 units, why don't I just pay you an invoice for $25,000 as a consulting fee, and then you also just bill me $30 for the product cost, and now you're paying tariffs on $30 rather than on $55.
You're watching the Marketing Misfits with Norm Farrar and Kevin King.
Man, you got that button down packed now, Norm. You're getting you're a professional button pusher.
Pow!
AI is not going to take your job because you're a professional button pusher.
Absolutely.
You're good for the future because they're saying all the. I was watching a YouTube video last night, and they're saying all the. There's the inventor of AI. Actually, he was on the Diary of a CEO podcast, and the guy's been working on like 50 years, and now he's taking a different tact. You know, he's like, hey, this is actually going to get dangerous. But one of the questions was like, so what job should your grandchildren be looking at? And he's like, plumber, because it's going to be a while before AI can do some of the little manual handy tasks, but it's going to be automating everything else. One thing though, yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know if you've ever heard Mike Rowe talk about it. He's saying the exact same thing. He's actually put up a scholarship for people to get into the trades for blue collar workers. He says that's where the money's going to be. Yeah,
that's basically what he was saying too. Is that it's interesting. I got it's an hour and a half long. I usually watch those in 2x, but the accents were a little strong. And the guy's Canadian, actually. Do you know the guy that invented AI is Canadian?
Yeah, he's my neighbor here.
He lives in Toronto.
Yeah, he's my neighbor. He's just,
that's the guy that's the guy you have dinner with that you couldn't tell me about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was like, Norm, where are you getting all this insider information? It's like, I can't tell you. Speaking of insider information, our guest today has a lot of insider information when it comes to sourcing. He's probably one. There's a lot of companies out there that help you source, and a lot of people, but I think this guy's had his boots on the ground, and I think he grew up. I'm sure he'll tell us, but from the crib, I think he was sourcing stuff out of his crib with his family, and that's a problem that a lot of marketers are having right now in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's trying to do something different, and they're all following the same stupid advice they're getting with all these other videos that are out there. And also, I went through school through marketing, and a lot of what they teach you just doesn't apply. At least when I went through, which was just about a year ago, but it just doesn't apply. You've got to break the rules.
That's back before abacuses, right?
Yes, yeah. I still remember, the abacus, but you got to break the rules. And so our guest today is one of those rule breakers. So would you like to bring him on, Kevin?
With pleasure. I remember the first time I met this guy, I actually had not met him in person yet, and our mutual friend Athena Severi was like, "Hey, I've got this guy that's a sourcing guy. He's like a guru." I was like, "Oh, dude, I need someone like that to come on the Helium-10 thing I was doing back in like 2016 or 2017." And she's like, "No, he's mine. I'm not going to share him to the world. You cannot have him. I'm not giving you his information." And then I just kept pushing her, and I was like, come on. And so she finally did, and then Kian and I connected, and we've hung out a few places, done a few things. He's in my Dream 100 for my other business. This guy is super smart. He's like humble, but knows everything pretty much about sourcing and manufacturing and getting products to market. So it's welcome Kian Golzari to the Marketing Misfits. How you doing, man?
How you doing, guys?
Hey,
I'm great.
Kian.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Hope you're well. Thank you so much for having me. And it was funny. I was listening to what you guys were saying about like sourcing from the crib, and I've got this photo. Let me show you. I'll put it on my camera, see if you can see it. But that's me and 2 Chinese suppliers at like 5 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How old are you there?
I'm like 4 or 5 years old. So basically, what happened was that like my dad went to China for the first time, like, when China were coming out of like a communist rule and they were allowing people to have their own private factories. And as the Chinese were like making their factories, they didn't really know like, how the Western world like wanted their goods. So my dad went over to China kind of like late 80s and just kind of showed them like, look, this is how we desire products in the West, and we're kind of working together. And then these Chinese suppliers would fly over to the UK to visit my dad. And so like I was 4 or 5 years old, and like he's got these like Chinese guests over at the house, and he's like, Kian, wake up, I want to introduce you to these guys. So that photo was like me just sort of like days getting out of bed, and I've got like 2 Chinese guys with their armor on me. I'm like, what's going on here? So like from an early age, I've always been like very, very curious about, like what goes on in China. How come my dad's always going there? So like it just planted the seed at such a young age. And I went there for the first time when I was 21, but for the next 16 years, I was hearing all the stories of what happens in China and how products are made. So like I had like a really good like running head start, when I got involved in the game. So it's just been cool. And like the guys that I met there when I was 5 years old, I also met like their sons on that trip as well. And then when I did my first Canton Fair, which was November 1st, 2010, the same guys also had a booth as an exhibitor, and their kids, which I met when I was 5 years old, was also like running their family business as well. So it was like an amazing connection. It's like, hey, meet this supplier. We're working with them. We've known each other for 15 years, and now we're both involved in the family business. So we were like really, really, really helping each other and really loyal to each other. So I got a lot of great knowledge and mentors and support, from day one. And that was like 15, 16 years ago as well. So I've done a lot since then as well.
So when you grew up and when you were a child, when someone asked you when you were 5, what do you want to be? Most kids say, I want to be an astronaut or a doctor, or now they say, I want to be a creator or an influencer. But back then, what did you say? I want to be a Chinese sorcerer.
Yeah, I want to be in product development. So, but it was cool, like I learned a lot of lessons. And I guess like anyone who's listening to this, who is a parent and who has young kids, I would strongly advise and recommend it. You get your kids involved at a young age, even if it's not in the business, but just when you're driving them to school, just have a bit of back and forth and say like, I'm working on this product. I'm going to make these changes. It's going to cost this amount. Or like, I'm thinking about hiring this person. These are their qualities. What do you think? Or, I want to invest more into marketing. I'm thinking about getting into TikTok shop. That's going viral at the moment. Do you think that's a good strategy? And they might, even if they're 5 years old, 10 years old, they might not understand it at the time. But fast forward 10, 15 years, and when they're in business, they can refer back to these conversations that they had a long time ago. And that will definitely gear them up, for success in the future, and kind of get that part of their brain of like critical thinking, working at a really young age. Even though you probably won't offer good suggestions today, but when they're older, they'll definitely appreciate it a lot more.
Hey, Norm, you'll love this, man. I talked to a seller the other day doing $50K a month. But when I asked them what their actual profit was, they just kind of stared at me.
Are you serious? That's kind of like driving blindfolded.
Exactly, man. I told them, you got to check out Sellerboard, this cool profit tool that's built just for Amazon sellers. It tracks everything like fees, PPC, refunds, promos, even changing COGS during using FIFO.
Aha, but does it do FBM shipping costs too?
Sure does. That way you can keep your quarter 4 chaos totally under control and know your numbers, because not only does it do that, but it makes your PPC bids, it forecasts inventory, it sends review requests, and even helps you get reimbursements from Amazon.
Now that's like having a CFO in your back pocket.
You know what? It's just $15 a month. But you got to go to sellerboard.com/misfits. Sellerboard.com/misfits. And if you do that, they'll even throw in a free 2-month trial.
So you want me to say, go to sellerboard.com/misfits and get your numbers straight before your accountant loses it?
Exactly.
All right. I remember in kindergarten, I was asked, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I said, I want to be an olive stuffer.
An olive stuffer?
Yeah, put the red things in the olives.
You knew back then that was AI.
That was, yeah.
You knew back then that the AI is not going to take your job if you're an
Yeah,
olive.
exactly. So Kian, I'm wondering, with everything that's going on right now, everything that's like everything's up in the air. How's that affecting your business?
Not a lot, to be honest, because like the same principles apply of like, we need to be getting our products at the absolute best place, best quality, best supplier, and best price. And those same principles apply, whether you are looking at China versus other countries. I always say that you should have even before all this tariff stuff, I was always saying that you should have a China plus one strategy, meaning China is most likely the best place for you to manufacture goods for 90% of the brands out there. But if anything was to go wrong in China, and the reason I've been like saying this for a while is that like when I was in China in like 2010, 2013, 2018, sometimes like a factory would shut down because they emit too much pollution and the government would shut them down for a month. Like, whenever they had one of these like G7 summits in Beijing or whatever, the factories in the neighboring cities would all get shut down for a month because they didn't want the smog coming into Beijing when the world leaders come in. And it was so funny because I was living in China at the time, and it would post all these like pictures on the news of like complete blue sky. And this is when like China had very, very bad pollution. And then all the world leaders leave, and then boom, it just goes back to gray smog again. So there were so many things that like that variables where like, you've got production that has to go out and the factory's like, I'm sorry, like we're shut for the month. And all sorts of things would happen with like, raw material costs and labor costs. So it was always important to have if I couldn't manufacture from China, where's the next best place to go? And for anyone wondering, well, like, where do I go next? Just consider what is the raw material of your product, and then what is a country which specializes in that raw material. So for India, it's like cotton, canvas, wood, leather, handcraft. But if your product is like, Bluetooth headphones, then you shouldn't be going to India. So you can do a simple Alibaba search of like, if you search by products on the left-hand side of the page, it shows all the countries which have a listing for that product. Import Yeti is probably the best website out of all of them to see where where the market leaders manufacture their products, and you get all sorts of good information of what HS codes they're using and what countries they're manufacturing from. And also, I would speak to your Chinese manufacturer before switching to say, look, the tariffs is going crazy right now. What is it that you could propose to us? Can you give us a lower cost of goods, or are you setting up production lines in other countries? I had a really interesting YouTube video that I put out when I was at the Canton Fair back in May, and I interviewed like maybe 8 suppliers and said, and this is when the tariffs like came in and it was like 150%. It was really hot and like it was affecting a lot of suppliers' business. And I was asking them like, how are you responding, and like what are you doing for your customers, and how is it affecting your business? And first of all, it depends on what percentage of exports go to the US market. So I had some factories which have 500 workers and 80% of their exports go to the US. So they were screwed because now 400 out of 500 workers don't have anything to make because all the orders have like stopped or halted, right? So then that's an opportunity if you're in an EU market, because then suppliers are basically willing to make the product at cost because they need orders to keep their production line running, right? So there's like opportunities there. And then some factories were saying, yep, we've set up production line in Thailand, or we've set up a factory in Myanmar. So they're going over with their Chinese systems and their production line managers, but then they're hiring local workers and bringing in their systems. And then I met one factory who they said that they've gone into a joint venture with a factory in Bangladesh. So like there's a factory already in Bangladesh making a similar product, and then Chinese factory comes in and say, look, we'll acquire 50% of your factory, but we're going to bring you like 50 different customers, and we're going to bring our orders to your factory. So as a result, your factory will expand. We'll bring in our production line techniques. You have your workers, and we're going to bring a lot more orders. So then there were a lot of joint ventures, because like the Chinese know that their orders are affected so long as this tariff situation is yo-yoing back and forth. But rather than us saying, right, let's burn the bridge, let's forget China, let's go to another country, your manufacturer's already solving that for themselves, because they also need to figure out, where they're going to be exporting their goods from. So that's always the benefit of having a good relationship with your supplier, and just being able to get on a call with them, because like so many people, I think, buy from Alibaba, never really visit China, don't have a good relationship with their supplier. But when the situation kicks off, like, hey, let's get on a Zoom call, let's get on a WeChat call, what we're going to do about it, what's the strategy, what do you suggest, what you're doing for your other customers that you're exporting to, and you figure it out. And like, I think the really serious buyers are the ones which go over to China and sit down face to face and, you know, see what's the situation over there and get their suppliers to hold stock for them, you know, free of charge storage. And then when the tariffs come down, then you ship it out. There's always a solution. Like, and the good thing is that like everyone is in the same situation. So although it's terrible that, you know, there's 100% tariff or whatever, well, your competitors have that situation as well, right? It's not only you. So it's just whoever figures out the best solution. So it's to answer your question, you know, it's just business as normal. Like there's a lot of things that we can do and there's a lot of hoops we can jump through, but ultimately it's still pretty simple to get a good solution to all of this.
Isn't it important to go and try to meet up with your supplier?
I would say so, yes. I mean, like I've been doing it for like 15 years and lived there, got an office there and travel there every 3 or 4 months. I'm actually going back to China next month as well. So I can see firsthand the benefits of let's just say for product development, massively speeds up the product development timeline, reduces the sample costs, reduces the like decision making. You know, you can, and it actually saves you money as well, because like think about the sample's never right first time, right? So they send you a sample, it's like, all right, change this, change that. Wait a couple of weeks, send another one. Yep, no, still not big enough. Right, change this, change that. Where if you're in the factory, you can have like 3 or 4 iterations of samples done in like 3 or 4 days, albeit while going out for dinner with your supplier and building your relationships and getting better credit terms on your order, and see what items they're producing for other brands around the world, and then going to visit other backup factories, and then like working on developing like your next items that you're going to launch for later in the year. So there's so many different advantages, because Chinese factories don't necessarily do a good job of selling themselves. They don't say, oh, hey, we just bought this new machinery for testing, so now we can improve like the waterproofness of your product. Like you just go in a factory and see like, oh, what is that? That's a cool machine. It's like, oh yeah, well that measures the salt spray so that we know if this tent is pitched near the seaside that the fabric will always survive. I'm like, well, that's cool. Let me make a video out of this and I'll use this for marketing. So like there's so many cool things that we get to know and see. And in general, these trips more than pay for themselves based on the product cost savings you get, the credit terms you get, better relationships that you get, more products that you get to launch, speed up sample timelines. So I would always emphasize whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or an advanced seller, you should really be going to your source and building up a relationship with them. And it's probably one of the only things that AI can't take over. I know you know, AI is such a hot topic, but like, what's the point in using an AI software to find your supplier when it's literally like deciding who you're going to marry? Like this supplier that you're going to work with for the next 3, 5, 10 years can either ruin your life or make it the best business experience ever. So like, don't rely on a ChatGPT or a software to like pair you with someone. Like you want a process of elimination and talking to many different suppliers and who'd you get along with, and then right, okay, this is the person, this is the company which we're going to be together for the next 10 years and build an amazing business for both of us.
Now you said that, what is it about the Chinese that makes them the world's factory? I know there's systems and they set out with intent like 30 years ago to do that, but now it's they're all over the world. You look at you know the border of the U.S. and Mexico. There's all these Chinese factories coming in there and setting up shop. A lot of them in Italy. I remember during COVID, the story I tell a lot, that you remember when the virus started spreading. There's this little area in Italy that got really hit really bad. And a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of Chinese factories there, and there's a lot of people coming back and forth from China that made in Italy. You think is some Italian craftsman sitting on the floor banging out the leather. It's actually a Chinese factory, and you're paying a premium for that. The word Italy. So what is it about the Chinese that, and then along those same lines, because I know you'll talk about this for a bit, is a lot of people are saying with these tariffs are like, oh, just bring it back to the U.S. You know, Trump was like, we're bringing back everything to the U.S. That's not really realistic in a lot of cases. It'll work for some products, but most cases, they've got a 20, 25-year head start. So can you talk about that a little bit, about their strong competitive advantage in manufacturing, and why is that?
For sure. So I would say, first of all, the mentality of like hard work. Like, you know, I went to China for the first time, 2010. And it was really eye-opening. The first thing for me was seeing that how hard these guys work. And anyone who's been to China like knows what I'm talking about. And like straight to the point, no distractions, put in the work. So that's one thing. And then, you know, in terms of bringing the production to, you know, US or another country, most products, when you look at their production, it's either labor intensive or machine intensive, right? So if we're talking about a backpack, it's a lot of materials cut, sew, stitch it, put it together, right? So that requires skilled labor. Whereas if it's like an iPhone case, you can just have an injection molding machine and, fill it with plastic, and then it's just a machine just churns out all these products. So machine intensive products probably could go to USA and other products, other countries. But whenever your production requires labor intensive, like bear in mind that like China for a long time has had a low cost workforce. But what a lot of people forget is that yes, it's a low-cost workforce, but it's a very low-cost skilled workforce. That these are very, very skilled workers with their hands, with sewing machines. And like, you can't just say, okay, well, I can get low-cost labor in Bangladesh or Myanmar, but they can't actually make things properly, like operate a sewing machine and things like that. That's been like years and years and years of experience and passed down through generations. So it's a skilled workforce, it's a hardworking mentality, and it's also the infrastructure that they've built as well, right? Like, for anyone who's been to China recently, like you've seen like the ports that they've built, the roads that they've built, the high-speed rail that they've built. So like when you're trying to move products around, like, having worked with like different countries, like, India and Bangladesh and places like that, sometimes your container gets stuck because the trucking takes like 2 days and the road's closed, or there's like massive potholes and it goes like gets damaged or whatever it may be. So there's a lot of challenges just on the logistics of your goods, like working with other countries as well. So I think China as well, if we want to get like political, because they're like a one-party policy, they can put forward like a 20-year vision and a 20-year plan. Whereas if you look at the US, it's like red versus blue, Republicans versus Democrats, 4 years in power, and the opposite party comes in, chops up everything down. So it's like, think of all the energy that it's been like Republicans versus Democrats, and then imagine, okay, forget all that, it's one party and we move forward together and we've got a 20-year plan. So think of the energy that goes into that. So when like, Chinese are investing in setting up, purchasing raw materials and mining in Africa and Australia, and like setting up production in other countries and building infrastructure in other countries, like that's all part of a 20-year plan. And I think that's what really allows them to get ahead and be such a dominant force around the world for production. It's like, it's having the labor, it's having the vision, it's having the capital behind you as well, and the desire to be the best as well. They really, really want to be like proud of themselves and to be the world leaders. And I think a lot of it is like top down, when your leader has that vision and it kind of filters down into the rest of the country. And just to give you an example, which is like totally different, but let's say marketing related, is that I moved to Shanghai in 2011, right? And the main shopping street is one called Huaihai Lu. And when I was there in 2011, everyone desired goods which were worn by Westerners, right? So as you're walking down the street, you see like LeBron James in a Nike store, you see Roger Federer, you see Steph Curry, like you just see these like models, like for Tommy Hilfiger from like American movies, Brad Pitt, all that. Brad Pitt was like the face of Chrysler, all this stuff. You see it everywhere. And then gradually they started to like phase more like sort of Chinese, like, Jackie Chan, and like then more like Chinese like influencers to be the marketing. And then now when you go down Huaihai Lu and you go down into like a shopping center in China, it's behind all these brands like Nike and Adidas and Tommy Hilfiger, it's all Chinese people. And like what I've noticed is that Chinese are very much proud of being Chinese. Before they weren't. They were like, I want to buy this because this is what they wear in the West. But now it's like, no, we're now setting the standards, we're setting the trends, and we're proud to be Chinese. And I think that mentality from a marketing perspective also holds true, like from a production standpoint as well, that, for a long time they were learning from America. And to bring it back to tariffs, right? Trump first put the tariffs in 2018 because he felt Chinese companies were stealing US IP. That's why the tariffs first came in. And now it's kind of reversed, right? 7 years later, it's now Chinese are really innovating with like phones and cars and things like that. And now it's like the West, which are kind of getting ideas from China, but gone are the days where they're stealing IP. Now they are the ones like innovating. So they've always had a vision. They've always had a plan. So yeah, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but hopefully that gives a broader perspective.
Can you give me some of your information on the difference? Well, let me just back up a bit. I've had a lot of conversations with people that say that they don't want to deal with sourcing agents. They don't want to deal with brokers. They only want to deal directly with the manufacturer. And you kind of know that they're not dealing with the manufacturer most of the time. But what are your feelings on that? Do they need a sourcing broker? Can they reach out to a manufacturer? What do you think?
So I'm going to be biased because like I love sourcing and I love product development. So I would never, ever, ever delegate that to someone else. However, it kind of depends like what part of the business are you good at, right? Because obviously sourcing is my thing. So I would maybe outsource, marketing, but someone who's a marketing expert and can send traffic to a listing and can get like crazy, like, YouTube views and good with affiliates and stuff like that. And all of a sudden you tell them, hey, you should be doing your own sourcing. They might be like, yeah, I probably could, but like, I just want to focus on the marketing. And in that aspect, maybe someone like that should work with a sourcing agent because they will cut out a lot of the headaches for them. And you just have to accept that you're probably not getting the best price. You're probably not getting the best quality because a lot of that price and quality comes from building relationships. And Chinese factories very much like to do relationships, like business boss to boss. And if you work for a sourcing agent, then the sourcing agent has that relationship. The sourcing agent dictates the price. The sourcing agent can change factory without you ever knowing, lower cost of goods, lower quality, and you probably wouldn't even notice, but they can then pocket more margin. I'm not saying that every sourcing agent is like that, but those are kind of the games that can be played. And I feel that like everyone's vision and ambition for their brand is to start, grow, scale, and then exit. And I think if you think of like your valuation for your brand, like when you work for a sourcing agent, a lot of them don't declare who the factory is because they don't want you to go direct like to them. But if a private equity or an aggregator is buying your business and you can't tell them who your factory is, you're like, oh, I buy from this guy, then like your valuation massively goes down if you don't know where your goods are being made. And, I think if you are working with a sourcing agent, you have to look at, well, is it a one-man show? Am I just dealing with this guy called Tom in China? Or am I dealing with a company? Because a lot of people I know like deal with one person. They're like, oh yeah, that's my guy in China. But what happens if that guy gets hit by a bus? Then do you know where your goods are made? Like, can you continue your production? Can you develop your next product? So I would always say if someone's unsure, why not try both? Like, try it yourself. There's a lot of information out there for you to learn sourcing. I would say like my YouTube channel, it's got a lot of information there. And you could also just learn it yourself, try it, contact suppliers, get some prices, get some samples. And then, because you'll learn a lot through that process as well, but then also give it to a sourcing agent. And if your prices are coming back, $6, $5.90, $6.05, and then a sourcing agent is giving you $6.50, you're like, well, okay, I'm 50 cents cheaper than the sourcing agent and the quality is the same. I'm doing a good job at this. I'll just do it myself. But if you're getting $6 and sourcing agent is getting you like $5.20, you're like, well, clearly the sourcing agent knows something that I don't, or it's got a relationship that I don't. Sourcing agent's actually saving me money. Let me just work with them. But you want to make that decision based on knowing what your capabilities are and what your team's capabilities are. So I would say if you're unsure, do both at the same time. Then with the information you get back, decide, whether you want to hire an agent or not.
I got a follow up to that. Is there a way, because we see this a lot, exactly what you said. People want to go to a sourcing agent. They don't know a lot about sourcing, but they don't want to use a sourcing agent because they won't give them the manufacturer's information. Is there a way that you could tell a supplier or a seller or even the sourcing agent, is there a way to get around that where you can secure yourself and not worry if they do go directly to the manufacturer?
Yeah. You could definitely sign some sort of agreement, whether it's like an NNN or something like that, and something which is written in both English and Chinese, and it's got like their company's stamp on it to make it legally enforceable. Now, at the end of the day, I don't think anyone's going to like sue each other, but bear in mind that the sourcing agent also gets protection from the factory. And I've seen plenty of times where like a brand is buying from a sourcing agent, and then that sourcing agent has obviously found that factory. Then brand finds out who the factory is, and they go direct to the factory and they're like, hey, just find out who you are, let's cut out a sourcing agent, I'll just buy from you directly. And then the factory actually says, no, like if you want to buy from me, you have to buy from the agent because they brought that business to me. So if that factory then shuts off that agent, they're also shutting off all the potential business that agent could bring them as well, because that agent is probably bringing them business from other brands as well. So it is almost like a gentleman's agreement, and there are like other factories, other sourcing agents which do reveal like who the factory is. And you can just sign something to say, look, this is what we agree to pay, like 5% of order value for every order that we do together. And sometimes a sourcing agent can handle things outside of just, finding the factory, but they'll also do like, arrange the samples for you and, check all your barcodes and do like your pre-shipment inspection for you and things like that. So they can do more work than just sort of find your factory and be like very useful to you and be like your boots on the ground there. But I wouldn't work with a sourcing agent which wouldn't declare who the factory is. And if they do expose to you who the factory is, then I would honor the agreement that you have, that you continue working together because they found you that factory. And if you ever want to work directly with a factory and you think you can get a better price, then just go find another factory. You're not tied to that factory, for the rest of your life. You can still shop around.
Are you looking to quickly boost new Amazon product launches or scale up existing listings to reach first page positioning? The influencer platform Stack Influence can help.
That's right. Stack Influence pushes high volume external traffic sales straight to Amazon listings using micro influencers that you only have to pay with your products.
They've helped up-and-coming brands like Magic Spoon compete with Cheerios for top category positioning, while also helping Fortune 500 brands like Unilever launch their new products.
Right now is one of the best times to get started with Stack Influence. You can sign up at stackinfluence.com or click the link in this video down in the description or notes below and mention Misfits, that's MISFITS, to get 10% off your first campaign. stackinfluence.com.
I see this happen a lot on like Kickstarter and stuff. Someone comes up with a good idea, they get some prototypes done, and they have no clue about the manufacturing process or the logistics process, and they make promises that this is going to be out in 2 months, and it ends up being 7 years, which happened to me in one case. Yeah. What is it if you're going to go direct and not use a sourcing agent? What are some of the gotchas? I know you've given the example, or I think it was you that gave the example of like changing the material in a zipper, and you think you're getting a better price, but actually you're getting an inferior product and things like that. What are some of the gotchas that you got to watch out for if you are going to go direct?
Yeah. It's really funny though that you mentioned like Kickstarter and a lot of people like raising money for a campaign and then it gets to manufacturing like, oh, yeah, I don't know what to do now. That was becoming such a big problem that I actually worked with Kickstarter directly, and Kickstarter on their website, they have a free course on how to launch your product. And it gives you like step-by-step guide, and there's a few different trainers. And I've done a free course on Kickstarter on how to develop your product because it was such a big problem. And the reason Kickstarter wanted to get behind it is that it's not good for their platform. Like if a product raises $800K or $2 million, and then that backer can't deliver, that creator can't deliver, it makes Kickstarter look bad. Because like I came to your website and I bought this like smart GPS watch for $200, and a year later I don't have anything. That looks bad on the brand, but also looks bad for Kickstarter. So
I had one take 7 years.
Really?
Yeah, I bought it in 2017. It was a scale. It's called a shape scale, and you stand on it. It's like a circle you stand on. It has a arm that goes around 360 around you. And it starts down at your legs and then it slowly raises up and goes around your torso and then around the top part of your body. Does this 360 degree 3D scan, and it shows you like where all your fat is, where your muscles are, where your skeleton. It's like a DEXA scan, which that pro athletes use. Like it's 99% as accurate. They came out with it on Kickstarter 2017. I think I paid $349. And then every year, I would get emails about, oh, we're in testing, or here's our beta guys, or here's the pictures from the production line. And finally, in 2015, earlier this year, actually, I saw something in a newsletter like cool new products, and one of the cool new products was this scale, and I was like, that looks familiar. I think that may be the brand, because I'd almost forgotten about it. So I go to their website, and the thing is available on their website, and it's now shipping. But they had changed the business model. So when they priced it originally, they priced $349 and realized we can't make this for that. Yeah. We need to charge a lot more money. Yeah. We need to actually go, instead of individual consumers using this in their house, we need to go after people who are professional trainers or spas or whatever. They'll buy this, and we can charge them $10,000 for the machine and then a cost per scan. So they switched to that model. And when they switched to that model, I messaged them and I said, hey, you says you're shipping now. I ordered one of these. And then, yeah, you're in the queue. We'll let you know. We're doing some final testing. I was like, no, it says on your website. I can put it in my cart and it says it'll be here next week. And they gave me some excuses. So I went on LinkedIn, messaged every single one of their people on LinkedIn, their CEO, their whatever, and finally they agreed to ship one to me. If I paid a $200 shipping fee or something like that. So I got this $10,000 device for $500, but it took 7 years. And they changed their business model, and I was low on the totem pole. So, but that's a example of a big problem that happens, like you just said, all the freaking time.
It's a very common problem in the crowdfunding industry, and the most notorious one. There's a brand called The Coolest Cooler, and I think they launched in July 2014. And it was basically a cooler that you take to the beach, and it had like all singing, all dancing compartments for everything, like Bluetooth head speakers, all this sort of stuff, lights on it, and all that. Anyway, it raised $13 million and had over 62,000 backers, and they couldn't deliver it. And to this day, it's still not been delivered as well.
They got that. They get that money like right away, right? Like 30 days.
They keep the money, yeah. So the whole concept of crowdfunding and Kickstarter is that you get paid by your customers before you start production, because getting paid by your customers allows you to kickstart your production. But then they get the money and they're like, well, we don't like, it's not going to cost us. We need more money. And then after you've sold it and finished your campaign, you can't then go back and ask your backers for more money. And that's what causes a big storm of problems. But to go back to your question in terms of like, what are the biggest pitfalls? The biggest one I see within the crowdfunding industry is mold costs and tooling costs, because anything that is launched on Kickstarter or crowdfunding is generally the first of its kind. This has never been done before. So for that reason, it requires like a mold and tooling to make that shape, right? And sometimes like, a creator will go to a supplier and say, okay, like how much for this product? And they're like, yeah, $5. And then it's like, okay, cool, I've sold like 10,000. Now let's do the production. Yeah, it's $5, but your mold cost is like $28,000 and you need 7 different molds. I'm like, whoa, I didn't factor in for that. So mold costs is a really big one as well. And also, I'm shocked, absolutely shocked, to see how many creators launch and finish and scale a Kickstarter campaign without having a final sample in their hand. Like a lot of them launch a campaign just based on an idea. And I guess like anyone which is involved in e-commerce, whether it's Amazon, Shopify, Kickstarter, I would never ever give a purchase order to a supplier or a deposit to a supplier or sell a product to a customer without having a final sample in my hand that I'm like, this is what I want. This is what I 100% want to go into production. And as a result of this sample, I'm now going to pay you my deposit. Whereas like a lot of like creators on Kickstarter will like find a product online, like make some modifications, get a price, not a sample, and then do their campaign and use all their imagery and stuff like that. So there is a much more conscious effort. And I guess like for wherever you're selling, to have success in your product, you have to be the biggest critic of your product. You have to be testing your product. And I would say like when it comes down to product testing, there's like 3 main places you should go. Like 1, you should test the product yourself. 2, you should send it to a third party, whether it's Intertech, SGS, BV, and they should be giving you certification based on the functions of your product. So you've actually got like lab reports. And then 3rd, you should be giving it to influencers as well, not when the product is ready to sell, but when it's in development. Because imagine like you've outlined the top 5 like YouTubers or TikTokers, to sell your product, to help like, market your product when it launches. But if you reach out to them to say, hey, I'm launching this like innovative new travel backpack. I'd love for you to test it out and let me know, what you're happy with and what you're not happy with. And is there anything you think I should improve before I launch it? And they might get it and say, you know what, this was a really cool product, but the shoulder straps were like a little bit too thick and I was sweating a lot over here. And then it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's make them thinner. That's really good feedback. And then when you go to launch a product, the creator, the influencer will then say, I was involved in the product development process of this product. And based on my involvement, we changed these straps and now they're fixed. So happy to help bring this product to market. They feel a lot more passionate about something that they were involved in as well. So that's like really, really testing your product before you go to sell it on Shopify, Amazon, Kickstarter, and then you can launch a product with confidence and you can sleep at night, knowing that you're getting, 6 figures, 7 figures for your campaign, knowing that you can fulfill it as well. And I think a lot of people underestimate like how much marketing content you can get when you go to the factory, because the Kickstarter campaigns which convert better are the ones which show proof of concept. So if you're in the factory and you see all these workers behind you, you see all these machines behind you, and you show like a mold, and you said like, this is the mold which is going to help launch my dreams, this is a mold which is going to help, you know, manufacture my product, then the backers are watching it and saying, okay, cool, I can see where it's going to be made, I feel confident, you know, backing this campaign. So you can utilize all of that in the marketing of your product as well, whilst validating that it's actually going to be, you know, a success, and bring it in at the price that you want it to bring it in at.
But isn't the pre-launch process something that we don't even talk about? Like, you're going back and you're talking about molds and more costly things, but even on a simpler approach, I would think that a high majority of sellers don't even think about a pre-launch process. They don't market it. They don't think about marketing it. They don't try utilizing it, and they have no knowledge of it. It's not talked about. Like, when was the last time you heard a podcast about a pre-launch strategies? You know,
that's a really good point, because like the crowdfunding model is, let's market the product, then let's figure out how to make it. And like Amazon is more like, let's make the product, and then once it's launched, let's figure out how to market it. So you kind of need someone to marry the both worlds together.
Yeah. That's Kevin and Norm, Dragonfish.
Actually, that's the three of us on this podcast.
All right, there we go. There we go.
So what about everybody's with these tariffs? You know, right as we're recording this, it's at 55% for the U.S. From China, and I think other countries vary from 10 to 100 plus. A lot of people are saying the prices are not really going up too much here in the States yet. There has been a slight increase. You know, I think Walmart increased like 3 or 4%, but we're not really seeing a lot of those getting completely passed on throughout the entire supply chain just yet. So someone's absorbing those. Probably a combination. What do you see are some of the strategies that people are using? Legal strategies, not the illegal. Let's put it under a different HS code, or let's route it through a different country. But now, like, even you can route through Vietnam or Hong Kong or Vietnam or whatever it is, and you certain amount of the goods have to be made in a certain place, and you can save a little bit. There's all these like little creative strategies that people are coming up with, or house it in Canada and only ship it across. Or what are you seeing some of the people that you work with? Because you've worked with some of the biggest brand. I mean, the Olympics and big celebrities and stuff in the past, helping them with their custom products. What are you seeing the smart people do right now?
Yeah, I think like the brands which are able to like hold their prices are probably the ones which were holding on to quite a significant amount of stock, because that like the big retailers, the big brands, like they tend to like order, like maybe if they have their own warehousing, then they might order like a year's worth of stock. So they're still like eating into that. So they've not been hit by those like larger like tariffs yet. But I think if you look at the innovation of your product that you're importing, right, tariffs were never really an issue before. So we've never really had to look at this. So like if a tariff was like, 4%, 8%, you're like, okay, cool, I'll pay it. But now when the tariffs go up to 50 and 150, you're like, well, let's look at everything in the product and the process and see like where we can just sort of shave off. And going back to like, Kickstarter, right? That's like innovative products. And anyone which has launched or shipped or imported a product of innovation required like an element of design, right? So if you are manufacturing, let's say a tent with a supplier, but it's a tent for like indoor use and it's got all these different compartments and it pops up really fast. It's like, you don't just say to a supplier, hey, like I want a pop-up tent for indoor use, right? That's like, okay, well, how big do you want it? Like, how fast do you want it to pop up? Like, what materials do you want it? And they start sketching it. They start getting their engineers involved. They sample it. They send it to you. Doesn't quite work out. And it took like maybe 6 months in development. And then you finally got that product. Well, that was a 6-month development time on the product. And the supplier has billed you for their product development cost and their engineer cost and their sample cost, but they've just put it into the unit price, right? So the cost of your product is like $55, but the actual cost of the materials and the labor might only be like, $30, but they've just added an extra $25 for all their product development. Now, when you're paying tariffs, you don't want to pay a tariff on product development. You just want to pay a tariff on the actual cost of the goods. So like, we obviously want to keep it legal. This is probably like the best gray that you're going to get. And obviously, like I said, it requires like your product to be innovative. And this is true. Like you have been built for product design work from your factory. So you can say to your factory, say like, look, you invoice us $55 for the cost of goods. What was the cost of the actual product and material, and what was the actual cost of your design and development work? And they will say, well, $30 is the cost of the goods and 25 is our like sort of design fee for helping you develop this product. It's like, okay, cool. Well, if we're ordering 1,000 units, why don't I just pay you an invoice for $25,000 as a consulting fee? And then you also just bill me $30 for the product cost. And now you're paying tariffs on $30 rather than on 55, and the supplier is still getting the full amount. You've just separated what was product development and what was the actual product. Now, you don't want to like take advantage of that and go crazy and just bill yourself $5 for the cost of goods and $50 for the cost of product development. But this is where like having a good relationship with your manufacturer and getting on a Zoom call with them, we're going to see them in China, and just say like, look, how are we going to split this up? Because your supplier is also incentivized to fix this, because the more you pay on tariffs, the more expensive your goods get. You pass that on to your customer, they don't buy it, then you don't have an order for your supplier, and then now their production line isn't busy. So they're incentivized to also help you solve this. But that's like one legal and ethical way, is to really just, and if your product is just like an iPhone case and there's no design involved, then like that strategy doesn't apply to you. This is more so if you are innovating. I would just separate what is a product development and what is the design cost.
As an Amazon seller, even an e-com seller, one of the strategies to keeping your price down is turning your inventory. So if you don't have a ton of inventory in your warehouse, and you can just, hopefully the tariffs will come down, and you're doing this either once a month or once a quarter, trying to turn that inventory, what can you do? Because you're probably, if you're in retail, you're stuck to a contract that's probably not going to let you increase your price, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? And like, let's say, for example, you sell like 12,000 units a year, 1,000 units a month, right? But you give your supplier a forecast order and they manufacture a lot of your goods. Like, I would be saying to my manufacturer, like, you just hold the goods in your factory, free warehousing, and then when the tariffs come down, I'll then ship it out, right? So that's essentially what happened when the tariff rates, like when Trump was coming into office, he said, it's going to be an additional 20%. Then he put on another 10%. Then he knocked it up to 150. Then it went to 250. Then it came tariff pause for 90 days. So in that sort of yo-yo time, as soon as he announced, right, okay, tariff pause, then you can be like, right, ship the goods. Like, they were ready. They were in the supplier's warehouse. And like, because they were giving you free storage, you were ultimately able to just send it out when the tariff cost was lowest. But remember, we had a similar situation in COVID. Remember when the factories all shut down, and then like nothing was happening in Chinese factories, and production essentially stopped. And then all of a sudden it's right, you're good to go again. Container prices went from $4,000 a container all the way up to $20,000 a container, right? And then people, same with the tariffs, they're like, I can't import these products at this cost. If I'm paying 20K for a container, I'm no longer profitable. And what I was saying to suppliers then was saying, you absorb 50% of the increase. So if it was 4K a container, now it's 20, the increase has been 16K. And if I pay that 16K, I'm not profitable, so I'm not going to order goods and I'm not going to sell anything. If I don't sell anything, you don't make anything. So how about the increase is 16, let's split it 50-50. I'll pay 8K, you pay 8K. And then as a result, we ship the products, we're both less profitable. I still get to sell them. We don't pass on a massive cost onto the customer. We keep selling it, and then we keep running, we keep getting orders, and then we'll just ride out this period, and then we'll still remain number one when this passes. Similar thing with the tariffs. Like, if you have a 50% tariff, just say, look, it was 4%, now it's 50%. The difference is 46. Let's go 23%. And on the value of the goods, that amounts to like $8 a unit. Let's split that 50-50. And then let's ride out this period. Let's keep selling. Let's not stop. Let's not lose ranking. Let's not lose momentum. And then we'll ride out this period. And then after that, we'll still be ranked high when everyone else has stopped selling. And that also comes down to like, how good of a relationship do you have with your manufacturer? Because they're also facing tough times as well. They want to continue selling and making products.
So sometimes, though, the pricing, whether it's priced in RMBs or USD, can make a difference too.
Yeah, I tend not to get involved in that, because I think that's more like kind of like Forex trading. And whenever I've tried to figure it out, I've been wrong. So like, I don't want to gamble like my inventory cost based on if the RMB or dollar will go up or down. But one very good thing you can do to sort of get product cost savings is that when the dollar strengthens against the RMB, you can actually get discounts and the supplier doesn't tell you about it. So like if you go to a website called xe.com and you put dollar against RMB and then you chart it, right? And you can chart it for the last 6 months, last year, last 5 years, right? And then you can look at, okay, like $1 equals 6.3 RMB like last year. And then today, $1 equals 7 RMB, for example. And then you could screenshot that and you can send it to your supplier and say that like, I paid you $100,000 for a purchase order last year. And then I paid you $100,000 for a purchase order this year. And last year you got, 630,000 RMB. And then this year you're getting 700,000 RMB. So you're making 70K RMB more just on the exchange rate alone. So therefore I want and that is 10%. Therefore I want a discount of 10% on my cost of goods. And they might not give you the full 10% because they'll say, yeah, but material costs went up or labor costs went up and we just absorbed that. Like, okay, cool. Well, let's agree on half. And then all of a sudden you get a 5% discount on your cost of goods because you've looked at the exchange rate and you've charted it, you've screenshotted it, and you've put in like where you gave purchase orders to your manufacturer and how the exchange rate has benefited them. Because when it's the other way, and when they receive less, they're the first to tell you about it, to be like, by the way, your price has gone up because of the exchange rate. So but when it goes in their favor, they don't say anything. So it's always good to go to xe.com, dollar against the RMB, chart it for the last 3 years, and then look at when you've given purchase orders to your supplier and just look how much more extra they've made as a result of the exchange rate. And then you can get that back in a discount on your next order.
So we are coming up to the top of the hour. And I want to take a little bit of time to talk about some of the craziest things that you've done. Like Kevin was talking about it earlier. You've dealt with the NBA, the Olympics, a bunch of things. And we talked before the podcast. You want to get into some of these? Like, first of all, what was the craziest thing that you've ever sourced?
Well, actually, one that I've done recently is like 24 karat gold iPhones, which are fully custom for like the best football players in the world, like for Barcelona, a player called Lamine Yamal, and for Real Madrid, like Mbappé and Jude Bellingham and like Vinny Jr., all these guys. I met them in Saudi, and then I went to Madrid and Barcelona and met them there as well. And they were basically wanting custom gold iPhones, and a friend of mine has a company for that here in Dubai. And I basically helped with that, but not only just doing like one-of-one custom pieces for the players. I was like, let's gift it to the whole team for every player, and then let's get a sponsor on board to put their name on the phones, and then we'll charge a sponsorship fee, and then the sponsor gets to deliver it to the team and then meet all the players. So it's you're not selling the sponsorship, you're more selling access to the best players in the world. And when you have access to those guys, you're in like a hotel conference room with them for like 30 minutes and you can talk to them about whatever you want. You can like get photos with them. You can get them to sign jerseys, or you could talk to them about your business. You could develop like real relationships and friendships, which is what I did. And like I managed to get some sponsors on board. I did deals with the teams, and I went to meet the players. And then, they said, we really like the phones. Now we want some more. Can you deliver this to Madrid next week? So I went over to Madrid with new phones, met the players again, but then met their managers, met their agents. And they're like, what are you doing the rest of your time in Madrid? I was like, just on holiday for another few days. They're like, well, we'll invite you to the game. Come along. We've got a seat for you in the box. And then I met like the players, like parents and the agents and the managers. And then they started introducing me to people. And then they're like, how's Dubai, all that? I'm like, yeah, it's amazing. And they're like, we're looking for like real estate partners in Dubai. This is like the clubs talking. And then they're like, let me introduce you to head of partnerships. And then I went to meet Barcelona's head of partnerships and started to discuss, and they were like, do you know these real estate partners in Dubai? Quick LinkedIn search, and I found some people. Mm-hmm. And then, so it was all just like, what started off as like, let's do production of a product, was then let's do sponsorship, then let's meet the players, then build relationships, then meet the clubs, meet the teams, meet head of partnerships. Now we're talking about real estate. So like, it just shows you like, I do sourcing, I do product development, but then all of a sudden I've got like signed shirts for the best players in the world. I've got access to any games, and one of them's in Dubai right now. I'm going to meet them for dinner tomorrow night. So it's really, really crazy, what's possible if you just open these doors that you have in front of you and see where it goes.
Hey, Kevin King and Norm Farrar here. If you've been enjoying this episode of Marketing Misfits, thanks for listening this far. Continue listening. We've got some more valuable stuff coming up. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast player, or if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, make sure you subscribe to our channel because you don't want to miss a single episode of the Marketing Misfits. Have you subscribed yet, Norm?
Well, this is an old guy alert. Should I subscribe to my own podcast?
Yeah, but what if you forget to show up one time and it's just me on here? You're not going to know what I say.
I'll buy you a beard and you can sit in my chair too. And you can go back and forth with one another. Yikes! But that being said, don't forget to subscribe, share it. Oh, and if you really like this content, somewhere up there's a banner. Click on it and you'll go to another episode of the Marketing Misfits.
Make sure you don't miss a single episode because you don't want to be like Norm.
Oh.
Speaking of Dubai, I mean, more and more people I'm hearing in the entrepreneur and marketing world are in Dubai. A lot of people are going to Dubai. I know there's an American guy that's a big, Jason Flatland's working with on these big, he had 59,000 people on a webinar where he was did like $9 million or something on this webinar. And the guy's based in Dubai, and then you're based in Dubai. What is it about Dubai that's attracting a lot of people? A lot of people in the West haven't been there. They have probably some image in their mind of there's a bunch of oil rigs everywhere, and a bunch of guys wearing different kinds of clothing and stuff walking around. But I've been to Dubai a couple times, so I know. But what is the attraction of Dubai for everybody?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think probably people's perceptions who've not been here might be quite negative because they might have just seen some stuff on social media of a very flashy lifestyle. And don't get me wrong, that stuff definitely exists. But I always say that Dubai is like the Joker card in a deck of cards, that it can be anything you want it to be. Like if you're into partying, it's got the best nightclubs. If you're into like entrepreneurship, it's got like amazing like e-commerce guys, entrepreneurship guys, crypto guys. If you're into gym and fitness, it's got the best gyms in the world, all your healthy eating. And it's a very, very convenient life as well. Like there's a lot of help, like drivers and maids and all that sort of stuff at a low cost. It's a very beautiful place. The weather's very nice. And probably the best thing is that it's the safest place in the world as well. There's literally zero crime. Like everyone's just got like flashy things, expensive things. Like the way you reserve a table in a restaurant is by putting your phone down and then going up to order. Like it's that safe. And like, I'm not exaggerating. So it's like you can really build the life of your dreams being out here. And I would say there is a difference to like if you come here on vacation versus if you live here, and both are like amazing experiences. But the quality of living in terms of like the apartments and the villas that you have access to, and the cost being, and obviously I forgot to mention like no tax, so you're basically making, double your income, which then you have a much higher disposable income. And then it's like, well, it's no wonder everyone around here is driving like Lamborghinis and Ferraris, because like when someone says to you, oh, you don't pay any tax, you're like, oh, that must be nice. That's cool. But I've been living here for 5 years. And like when you haven't paid tax in 5 years, you realize how much that compounds, because that first year where you save tax, imagine if you invested it all, let's say in the stock market, in crypto, into real estate, cool. And then the next year you have even more, and that compounds, and then you invest that, and then you invest that. And then all of a sudden you've got a really, really big pot, which started on year one, which just compounded. And it allows you to basically grow your business a lot faster, because then you can obviously spend that on more stock, more employees, like more help, more staff, etc., investment properties. So life gets very good very quickly here. And I would say that everyone that you meet here is very ambitious. Like you don't see many people here who are not doing well for themselves and are not willing to help other people. So when you go to events, it's like someone's killing it in crypto, someone's killing it in real estate, someone's killing it in online business, and you just share ideas. Like there's so many different like networking dinners that you get invited to. You get these really big like creators, influencers, YouTubers. Everyone's just sharing ideas and learning from each other, and it's a very, very positive environment. And you're also center of the world as well, because like you've got one of the best airlines in the world in Emirates. Nearby, you've got Abu Dhabi, you've got Etihad. Nearby, you've got Doha, you've got Qatar Airways. So literally within an hour of where you stay, you've got access to 3 of the biggest Gulf airlines in the world, which can take you anywhere you want to go very, very quickly. Like for me, working with China quite a lot, it's a 7-hour flight for me to get to China. So I could leave at nighttime and be in China in the morning. And it's nothing. It's like 7-hour flight, 4 hours time difference. So I get a lot more hours online with China. So you're at the center of the world in a very safe place, allows you great connections, great network, and allows you to scale up your business and make money very, very quickly. So what's not to love about it?
A lot of people don't realize it's a huge expat. I mean, what's there, 7 million, 8 million people, something like that in Dubai, and like 4 or 5 million, 6 million of them weren't born there or something like that?
Yeah, so Dubai's got 90% expats, 10% locals. So imagine a town where imagine being in America and only 10% of people are American. Like, that's crazy. But credit to like the leadership of the country, even though it's 90% expats, all the expats here are like very, very well behaved because they love the place that they live in. And it's created such an incredible environment for them that therefore, they don't commit crimes. And obviously, like anyone who commits crimes, the punishment is very, very severe and very harsh, which is what deters people from doing it. So they've created a very, very safe environment for people from all over the world and different cultures to come together.
And now they're going to have gambling.
That's right. They've loosened. Like they loosened the laws on like alcohol a long time ago. Because like whenever I say I live in Dubai, people are like, oh, like I heard you can't drink there. It's like you got the biggest party places in the world here. Like you can drink anywhere you want on the beach, like clubs, everything. It's fine. But so they slowly. Because actually, think of Dubai not as a city, but think of it as a business, right? So what does a business need? Customers. How do we keep the customers happy? What do they want, right? They like to drink. Cool, let's ease off alcohol. They want safety. Cool, let's make sure there's no crime on our streets. They want high quality living. Let's build really nice apartments. They want big attractions. Well, let's build the biggest skyscraper in the world, Burj Khalifa. Let's build the biggest mall in the world, Dubai Mall. Let's build the biggest fountains in the world. So like they've basically built everything in a way to make it the best product in the world. And as a result, that attracts so many people and people keep on moving here. As we have problems, there's all sorts of problems going on in Europe, in America, crime, safety, politics, everything. And as that increases, just more and more people move to Dubai. A lot of Russians and Ukrainians are here as well since the war broke out there from like 2020. So like a lot have come to Dubai as well. There's a lot of wars in the Middle East as well. And then a lot of people are coming here for safety. So as there's chaos around the rest of the world, Dubai is the number one destination that they flock to after that. So you could say tourism is their number one export, and then those tourists end up staying. When I came here December 2020, I came on a 2-week holiday, and then I just stayed, and I've been here for 5 years.
So it's a big melting pot.
Yeah. It's incredible. I would say for anyone considering it, just book a ticket, come out for a week, see how you like it, and I'm sure you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it's other than the August heat, where it's 118 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade. Dubai's, it's got it all. And it even has a little Amazon business over there too.
It does. And like Amazon is growing quite big here because like from Dubai, you can supply the rest of the Middle East, because Dubai is actually quite a small market. There's not a lot of people here compared to other countries, but Egypt market is very big. Saudi Arabia market is very big. Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait. But you can fulfill all those countries from the UAE. So like having an Amazon business here, it's quite popular as the UAE and Middle East grows a lot larger.
And it's become a big AI hub too. Huge AI center.
Yeah, massive AI and blockchain.
Huge.
Yeah. Wow. I guess you shouldn't be ordering chocolates for Valentine's Day then.
No, they'll come in a little refrigerated box.
Well, that's what they told me here, and they all melt.
Someone will be there.
Yeah.
That's someone will be there.
We're poor, like we're in Canada. We're not in Dubai. All right, I think we're at the top of the hour. All right, I got one question for you. We always like to ask our misfits at the end of every podcast if they know a misfit.
I know loads of misfits actually. So it depends on which category of misfitting you would like to talk to someone.
We'll take them all.
Yeah, I can throw a few suggestions your way. Whether they're in the sport world, the crypto world, e-commerce, I can give you quite a few.
The only criteria is they have to think outside of the box, and they became successful. So there you go. I'll leave you with that.
Perfect. Thanks.
Well, if people want to reach out, Kian, how do they find out more about either your training, or if they need someone to help them source some products, or what's the best way for them to do that?
For sure. If you have any questions about, product development, supply chain, it's my passion. So you can reach out to me anytime. And if you wanted to work together as well, just give me a shout. Best place to catch me, probably Instagram, where I'm Kian_JG. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Kian Golzari. I do have a YouTube channel as well called Sourcing with Kian. So feel free to check out the channel if you want to learn more about sourcing, product development, supply chain. And I film a lot of videos in China when I go to factories, and I show like behind the scenes of inside factories and how I talk to them, and also go to the Canton Fair and show you around suppliers there as well. So yeah, hit me up on Instagram, LinkedIn, or also YouTube as well.
That's really strange because we heard how popular you were. So Kevin and I had an Instagram. We just opened it up called The Real Kian. Yeah, we're the official channel.
We're trying to leech off him.
Exactly.
Trying to take some of that IP.
Nice. Yeah. Let's do some joint posts.
Let's do it.
All right, Kian.
Thanks
Appreciate it,
so much
man.
for having me on. And
Thanks
it's a
for coming.
pleasure to connect with you guys again. And hopefully the audience got some value out of this. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Very good. Thanks.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. That was, dude. You ready to move to Dubai?
Yeah, but only if Dallas can come. You know,
They I think they allow dogs. They're not.
You
It's
think
not
so?
it's not a big dog country. I think it's more of a cat country.
You know what happened? You know why I turned off my camera?
No, what happened?
Dallas the Dumb came down with a boiling hot corn on the cob.
Really? He went.
Yeah, like still steaming. So I went upstairs and Connie had put it aside for supper. So I guess I get that piece.
That's your.
Yeah.
You get the doggy bag.
Oh
today.
yeah,
You get the doggy bag.
Yummy.
Oh, that's good. We the doggy bag. Yeah. I wonder what we could do with that. That could be a Marketing Misfits thing.
There we go.
Sell doggy bags of all the leftovers from all these people who have their tariffs that can't extra products that they can't bring in. Just buy those and put them in doggy bags. That's the new business. That's our new business right there.
Got it. Just like that.
Well, if you want other ideas or help with your business, the best way is to listen to the Marketing Misfits podcast. Where do they do that at, Norm? How do they do that?
Well, if you want to see the full-length version, you can go to our YouTube channel. That's Marketing Misfits Podcast, and that's these versions right here. The long version's about an hour long. But if you don't have time and you just want to get some really cool snippets, 3 minutes and under, go to Marketing Misfits Clips on YouTube. And also our TikTok channel has just, I think it's about 3 or 4 weeks old, and it's doing fantastic. So
Awesome.
check out those clips as well.
Awesome. We're here every Tuesday with a brand new episode. So check us out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for this if you like it. And go check out the library of past episodes. There's 60, 70 of them in there. A lot of really good stuff. So add that to your playlist when you're driving around, when you're working out, when you're folding the laundry.
Complete new format.
That's right. Turn on the Norm and the Kevin and learn something and be entertained at the same time. Until
Very
then,
good.
I guess we'll see you next week. I'll see you again soon, Mr. Farrar.
All right. I'll see you next week.
Ciao.